Hey guys, my name is Nathan and welcome to Hale. So I am super excited about today's video. I am collabing with Chris Bowie from the channel FilmStocked here on YouTube. We reached out to each other and we're both making Disney related top 10 videos. So this video is each of our top 10 favorite live action Disney movies. And if you go over to his channel after you check this video out, you can see our top 10 animated Disney movies. Here's a quick introduction from Chris.
Hey guys, I'm Chris from FilmStocked and I'm really excited about this video. I wanted to say thank you to Nathan for having me on your channel. I'm excited to talk about Disney.
Alright, so the way this is going to work is we will each share our numbers 10 through 6, and then once we do that, we'll share our numbers 5 through 2, and then we'll both reveal our number 1 movies. However, a few disclaimers. So we made a rule that we can only include one movie from a franchise in our lists. Otherwise, you would probably see a lot of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies on both of our lists. Also, we are excluding any Lucasfilm or Marvel movies. So no Star Wars, no Avengers. This is just strictly Disney live action movies. Whether it's a remake or just a live action movie, here it is, our top 10 Disney live action movies. Let's start with Chris. He's gonna share a few honorable mentions and then his 10 through 6.
So I grew up watching a ton of live action Disney movies, so there's obviously a lot of movies that I love that can't all be on my top 10, so I do have some honorable mentions, and those honorable mentions are Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, Invincible, John Carter, and The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Now, I've seen these movies a lot from my childhood and growing up, so I enjoy them, but they just weren't good enough to make the list, and some of these I haven't seen in a very long time and didn't have time to rewatch them all before, so that's why they didn't make the cut. But coming in at number 10 for me is Mary Poppins, the original film starring Julie Andrews and Dick Van Dyke, and this is an absolute classic. There's no denying that. The music is absolutely phenomenal. It's one of the better musicals that Disney's ever put out. I didn't grow up watching this one as much. I actually caught it in my later years in high school, but I still really enjoyed this movie. My favorite song is probably Chim Chimney, Chim Chimney, Chim Chim Cheree. That's a great song. Dick Van Dyke plays the role so perfectly. Mary Poppins is an iconic character, so I had to include her on this list. Coming in at number 9, though, is going to be the live-action remake of Beauty and the Beast from a few years ago, starring Emma Watson. I really enjoyed this movie. I think a lot of people don't for some reason. The original is still better, but I do enjoy this movie. The CGI with the Beast is a little questionable at times, but it's not that big of a deal. I think it's pretty impressive for the most part. Dan Stevens plays him so well, and I actually like the Beast's new song Evermore. It's really entertaining. Overall, I had fun with this movie. I think it's one of the best cast live action remakes because they look just like they do in the original animated movies, and that's perfect. Number 8 for me is Sky High. Now, this movie definitely has a lot of nostalgia for me. I remember watching the DVD in the car or just watching it all the time at my house growing up. It actually has a ton of scratches on it now. But it's just a very fun movie. Is it cheesy? Definitely. There's a lot of cheesy elements in it. It's a 2000s film, and the CGI is kind of questionable. Not kind of, very questionable. But I can look past all this because the story is really just about a kid trying to find his way in high school, and it's super relatable, even to this day, finding your identity, and I think Disney did a great job with that. It still does hold up for me, and it has a special place in my heart, and if you throw Kurt Russell into the mix, I'm down, so Sky High is a great movie. My number 7 is the live action, if you want to call it that, remake of The Jungle Book. Jon Favreau directed this movie, and he is just a great director. While I'm not super fond of some of his work, he did make Iron Man, Elf, and this movie, which are all really entertaining. The visual effects, it won the Oscar, this Jungle Book movie did, rightfully so, because it is picture perfect. It looks just like real life, and I think the casting in this movie is really good. I don't know the kid's name who plays Mowgli, but he's really great as the human and the lead that you have to follow in this movie. But Baloo, played by Bill Murray, is definitely my personal favorite, and Shere Khan is really menacing in this movie. They added a few extra elements that the original animated movie doesn't have, so I do enjoy that element of it, but overall I have a really fun time with this, and it's one of the most visually stunning movies in the past 10 years. Coming in at number 6 is Holes, starring Shia LaBeouf, based on the book that I think I read in elementary school, but I have a ton of fun with this movie, and this is similar to Sky High because I have a lot of nostalgia for this. I remember sitting down watching the Disney Channel, and this movie would be on all the time, so I would always have it on in the background. But Shia LaBeouf was in like everything that I loved as a kid. He was in the Even Stevens Show, he was in this, Transformers, Indiana Jones 4, I mean, I really have a lot of respect for that actor, and I still like to see what he's doing. Holes is a lot of fun, though. I love the character of Zero, And I like how it intertwines the flashbacks between what's happening with him at Camp Green Lake. It's very well done. And if you have not seen Holes, I highly recommend it. It's got a star-studded cast with Sigourney Weaver, Tim Blake Nelson, and Jon Voight. You wouldn't expect them to be in a Disney movie from like 2003, I believe, but it's a really well-done movie and one of the better live-action Disney movies.
All right, thanks, Chris. So I am now going to share a few honorable mentions for myself and my 10 through 6. So honorable mentions for me, I've got Christopher Robin, Enchanted, Holes, Watcher in the Woods, and The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So starting at my number 10, I have The Princess Diaries, which is a total chick flick. I will happily admit it, but I grew up on this movie. I remember my sisters got it for Christmas one year on VHS. We watched it a ton of times, and I actually watched it a few months ago with some friends. We had a movie night. It was right around the time that Disney Plus came out, and this movie still holds up. Is it a perfect movie? It is far from a perfect movie, and it's a really kind of cheesy movie too, but I will honestly say that this is my favorite Anne Hathaway performance. Yes, she's probably given better performances, but this is what I know her from. I know her as Mia Thermopolis, Princess of Genovia. Hope I said that right. She's just super awkward in this movie and so funny. The movie altogether is just really funny, very harmless. Also, Julie Andrews. I mean, she's great in it too. My number 9 is National Treasure. Now, I'll be honest, it has been a few years since I've seen this movie, and so I'm really going off of what I remember most of this movie. I remember a fun action movie that is a little over the top, but has an amazing score. I mean, you guys know me, I'm a sucker for those great movie scores. And also, it's just a fun adventure mystery movie. And the plot is ridiculous, but it's just great to watch. Number 8 for me is Saving Mr. Banks. The reason I love this movie so much, honestly, I think it's because of the performances from Emma Thompson and Tom Hanks. Both of them give such great performances as P.L. Travers and Walt Disney. And the movie's really about all the behind the scenes of the making of Mary Poppins. So if you like Mary Poppins, you probably love this movie as well. But really just looking at all the behind the scenes, the back and forth between the two characters in the studio and P.L. Travers, you didn't know any of it. And watching it, knowing that you love Mary Poppins, it just it almost gives you a greater appreciation for the movie Mary Poppins. Plus, it's cool to see Disney during this time frame. The movie takes place in the 50s, I think, 50s or 60s, whenever Mary Poppins came out. And coming in at number 7, I actually have Mary Poppins. I don't really think I have to go into too much detail about why this movie's great. I mean, it's just so iconic. You have amazing performances from Julie Andrews and Dick Van Dyke. Plus, there are so many great songs and honestly a great score as well. Not a lot of people talk about the score because they're so focused on the songs, but I really like the score in this movie too. I also love the whole theme of the dad needing to spend more time with his children. It just hits you. That's just a good theme right there. At my number 6, I have The Santa Claus. This is a movie that I grew up with, and honestly, the older I get, the funnier this movie gets. Tim Allen is absolutely hilarious in the role of Scott Calvin. Watching his transition from a very serious professional person to freaking Santa Claus is just so enjoyable, and it's such a great Christmas movie. I love it.
So now we're getting into my top 5, and coming in at number 5 is The Santa Claus, starring Tim Allen. This is a Christmas classic. I must have seen this movie over 10 or 15 times because every time when December rolls around, I have to watch this at least once, if not twice. It's just such a fun movie, and Tim Allen is so charismatic in the lead role, and there's just a lot of iconic moments, especially with him on the roof when he becomes Santa Claus in the first 20 minutes of the movie. I just love the Santa Claus, and while the sequels aren't as good as the first one, I still enjoy watching the trilogy during the holiday season. So my top 4 are hands down my 4 favorite live-action Disney movies. I have seen them more than any other movies on this list, and it was really hard to pick and choose. But coming in at number 4 is Miracle. It's one of my favorite sports movies of all time. Disney had a period where they were making some of the best sports movies that have ever existed. And this movie is about the 1980 U.S. hockey team and how they beat the Russians in the semifinal, and then they went on to win the gold medal at the Olympics. But it is so intense, and it's really a motivating film. There's a scene where Kurt Russell, who plays Herb Brooks, the coach, is holding them back, and he's blowing the whistle. They keep having to run sprints, and he keeps saying, again, again. And then the payoff of that scene with Mike Eruzione, one of the best scenes in sports history. I love it. This movie gives me chills every time I watch it, and it never fails to get me pumped. My number 3 is a movie that I have a ton of love and nostalgia for, and that's National Treasure, starring Nick Cage. What a movie. I mean, the concept alone is so absurd about a man having to steal the Declaration of Independence because another group of people is going to steal it, and there's a treasure map on the back. It's absolutely absurd, but it is so well done. Sean Bean plays the villain well. Nick Cage is Nick Cage. And it's a really nice adventure, a nice family film that I grew up on, and it will always have a special place in my heart. My number 2 and my number 1 are hands down the best Disney live action movies in my opinion, and my favorite, so it was super hard to pick between the two. But my number 2 is Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl from 2003. And this movie is like the definition of just an absolute popcorn blockbuster. One of the most fun movies I've ever seen. You've got Johnny Depp playing Captain Jack Sparrow, and he actually got an Oscar nom for this role, which is crazy because he's so good. He just transforms into this swashbuckler, and it's so much fun to watch. The story is very original. It's actually based on a ride from Disney World, which is crazy. I like the story with Will Turner and the medallion. Barbossa's a menacing villain. I just love this movie.
Great list, Chris. I do have to admit, I haven't seen the movie Miracle. I don't know if it would have made my list if I had seen it, but that is a Disney live action movie that I do want to see someday. My number 5 goes to Newsies. Newsies is just such a great movie. If you're looking at it from a critic standpoint, and if you're comparing it to like some of the greatest movies of all time, then yeah, it's not perfect by any means, but it's just so enjoyable. You've got a young Christian Bale who actually gives a really good performance and sings. I mean, he's not the greatest singer in the world, but the guy's pretty good. Like, honestly, what can't Christian Bale do? Plus, I love the soundtrack in this movie. Such great songs. I don't know if I can choose a favorite, but right now, if I had to choose one, it would probably be Santa Fe, which is sang by Christian Bale himself. And honestly, the movie, it's nostalgic for me. If you haven't seen it, then watch it. If nothing else, you can see another Christian Bale performance that's amazing. Number 4 goes to Hocus Pocus. For me, Hocus Pocus is just a perfect Halloween movie. It is a movie that I will honestly say I would give it a 10 out of 10 because it accomplishes everything that I want from a Halloween movie. First off, it's nostalgic, which, I mean, who doesn't love nostalgic movies? Plus, the performances given by each of the Sanderson sisters are absolutely incredible and so zany. Bette Midler's performance of I Put a Spell on You is so great. It's one that I grew up with. In fact, I think she was the first person I heard the song from. Although, like, she's redoing this song, that was the first time I ever heard that song. So I'm maybe a little biased, but I just love her version of it so much. It's just a great Halloween family movie. My number 3 goes to Remember the Titans. This is a movie that is just so emotional, and you just fall in love with all the characters. And what I mean by that is you feel for them. You feel the pain that they are feeling, especially with the segregation, the racism that this movie deals with. And it takes place at a time where racism was very large, and so obviously there were a lot of people against the football team. It hits a lot on teamwork and hits a lot on racism and overcoming racism. Denzel Washington's character, you feel the pain for him especially, and Denzel Washington's performance is great too. Just, it's a movie that, I'm not gonna lie, it brings tears to my eyes. Like, it gets me emotional, man, so I love it. It's great. Number 2 goes to probably the most underrated live action Disney film of all time, in my opinion, and that is the 2011 film The Muppets. Guys, this movie is so hilarious, and not enough people talk about it, which makes me so sad. The humor is just on point. It's got that Muppets humor where they're very almost like sarcastic, kind of dry sense of humor. At the same time, they have a very like literal sense of humor. And if you've seen the movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And plus, not only is it hilarious, but it is like a really good musical too. There are some great songs in this film. My favorite one would have to be Life's a Happy Song, which is the opening musical number, just because it's so great. And the movie also has a lot of great celebrity cameos and celebrities in general, like Amy Adams and Jason Segel are the stars of it. I love this movie, and I honestly recommend you guys watch it. All right, and here is Chris's number 1 movie.
So we're down to my last pick, and my number 1 favorite live-action Disney movie is Remember the Titans. Not only is this my favorite live-action Disney movie, but it's my favorite sports movie of all time. It is so inspirational, and the message behind it is very powerful. It deals with racism in a high school, T.C. Williams in Virginia, and it follows this football team coached by Denzel Washington, and he plays Coach Boone. The relationship between Gary Bertier and Julius is so heartfelt and really acts as the core of this movie, I think. It holds it together so well. And there's a certain scene that makes me tear up every time I watch this movie. It's so powerful. The soundtrack, though, this is probably my favorite soundtrack in any movie. I've listened to the playlist 100 times in my car, probably. It's just so iconic, and Ain't No Mountain High Enough. I love the way it's used in the locker room in this movie. I can't gush about this movie enough because it is so, so good. good. I love it, and it's easily my favorite live action Disney movie.
Awesome choice, Chris. I mean, totally support that number one. My number one movie has to go to Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl. This movie really just gave us so many iconic things. First off, you got the score, which is just a legendary score, might I add. The Pirates of the Caribbean score is something that's so iconic that it's as recognizable as Star Wars or Indiana Jones or Harry Potter. It has joined the club of elite movie scores where people just know the score when they hear it. Plus, Curse of the Black Pearl gave us Captain Jack Sparrow, which is also one of the most iconic movie characters of all time now. As Chris mentioned, Johnny Depp was nominated for an Oscar for his performance, which is super cool. You don't really see that too often in Disney live action films, and he really did deserve it. He gave a great performance and he made this character super iconic. Plus, you get so many other great characters like Elizabeth, Will, Barbossa, and the story is cool too. And plus, this was one of the earliest billion-dollar franchises that we ever really had. I know you've got movies like Titanic and Avatar, but those weren't really part of franchises. Like Pirates of the Caribbean, especially Dead Man's Chest, and on Stranger Tides, both of those movies passed $1 billion, and I know that Curse of the Black Pearl and At World's End, they got really close to $1 billion, and so this was really the early billion-dollar movie franchise. These were the movies that we watched in the summer that we fell in love with, and they're just fun movies. Well, guys, there is our list. I'm going to quickly turn the time over to Chris to end his video, and then we'll come back to me.
Again, I just wanted to say thank you, Nathan, for having me on your channel. I've been watching your content for a while, so this is pretty awesome to just do these videos and talk about Disney, because who doesn't love Disney? Thanks again, and if you guys are watching, feel free to check out my channel, and I'll see you guys later.
Make sure to subscribe to Chris's channel, FilmStocked. I will leave a link to his channel in the description below. I'll also make sure to leave a link to our video, Top 10 Animated Disney Movies. That will be on his channel, so make sure to check it out after this one. As always, make sure to leave your lists in the comments below. Subscribe if you want more Disney content, and also leave a like on the video as well. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.